Teachers mock black boy with a violin, they freeze when he starts playing like a prodigy. The auditorium smelled of old wood and nervous sweat. Malik Carter, a lanky 15-year-old with deep brown skin, stood center stage, his violin resting uneasily against his shoulder. His heart pounded, not from stage fright, but from the weight of the teacher's gazes boring into him. Mr. Hargrove, the music director, leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, a smirk tugging at his lips. Ms. Delaney, the history teacher, whispered something to Mrs. Coleman, the principal, who stifled a laugh. Their eyes said what their words didn't. A black kid with a violin? This'll be a disaster. Malik wasn't naive. He'd grown up in this small, divided town, where the color of his skin seemed to dictate what he could dream. Football? Sure. Basketball? Expected. But a violin? That was white people stuff, as his own cousin had teased. Yet, every night, Malik practiced in his cramped bedroom, the bow gliding across strings, weaving melodies that felt like freedom. His mother, a nurse working double shifts, had saved for years to buy him that violin. It was more than an instrument, it was her belief in him. The audition was his chance to join the regional orchestra, a ticket to a world beyond this town. But the teacher's mockery stung deeper than he'd expected. "Let's see what you've got, Malik," Mr. Hargrove said, his tone dripping with condescension. The auditorium grew quiet, save for the rustle of students shifting in their seats. Malik's fingers trembled as he raised the bow. He could feel the weight of every stereotype pressing down, every assumption that he didn't belong. Then he played. The first note of Vivaldi's The Four Seasons sliced through the silence, sharp and pure. The teacher's smirks faltered. Malik's eyes closed, and his body swayed as the music poured out, vivid, precise, alive. Each stroke of the bow was a defiance, each note a rebuttal to their doubt. The auditorium seemed to shrink, the world narrowing to just him and the violin. The students leaned forward, their whispers replaced by awe. Ms. Delaney's hand froze mid-gesture. Mrs. Coleman's mouth parted slightly, her eyes wide. Mr. Hargrove's arms uncrossed, his chair creaking as he leaned toward the stage. Malik didn't see their reactions. He was lost in the music. In the story it told of storms and calm, of struggle and triumph. His fingers danced across the strings, the tempo quickening, the melody soaring. It wasn't just skill. It was soul. Every late night, every taunt, every door slammed in his face fueled the performance. He wasn't playing for them. He was playing for himself, for his mother, for every kid who'd been told they weren't enough. When the final note faded, the silence was deafening. Then, a single clap broke through, timid, uncertain. It came from the back row, where a janitor, Mr. Ellis, stood in his faded blue uniform. His weathered hands, usually gripping a mop, struck together again, louder this time. Malik opened his eyes, startled. He hadn't noticed Mr. Ellis before, a man who blended into the background of the school, invisible to most. But now his applause grew steady, deliberate, pulling others into it. A few students joined, then more, until the auditorium erupted. The teachers sat frozen, their faces a mix of shock and shame. Mr. Hargrove cleared his throat, fumbling for words. "That was unexpected," he managed, his voice tight. Ms. Delaney stared at her hands, avoiding Malik's gaze. Mrs. Coleman stood, her expression unreadable, and walked toward the stage. Malik braced himself, expecting a hollow compliment or worse, a dismissal. Instead, she extended her hand. "You're in," she said simply. "The orchestra will be lucky to have you." But the moment wasn't over. Mr. Ellis, still standing, raised his voice, rough but clear. I've heard that boy practice every day after school in the boiler room. Y'all never noticed, did you? The crowd hushed. Malik's chest tightened. He hadn't known anyone heard him. Mr. Ellis continued, he's got more heart than most folks I've seen. And you, he pointed at the teachers, his finger steady, you owe him an apology. The auditorium held its breath. Mr. Hargrove's face reddened, but he stood. Malik, he said, his voice softer now. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Ms. Delaney followed, her apology quieter but sincere. Mrs. Coleman nodded, her silence an acknowledgement. Malik didn't know what to say. He wasn't used to adults admitting fault, especially not to him. He just nodded, his throat tight, the violin still warm in his hands. Word of Malik's performance spread. By the next week, the town was buzzing not just about his talent, but about the teachers' behavior. Some defended them, saying they'd just been skeptical. Others, especially parents of color, called it what it was, prejudice. The school board held a meeting, and Malik's mother, exhausted but fierce, spoke. My son's music isn't just notes. It's proof he's more than your assumptions. The room fell silent, her words a mirror no one could ignore. Malik joined the orchestra, traveling to cities he'd only seen on TV. His performances drew crowds, not just for his skill but for the story behind it. Mr. Ellis became his quiet mentor, sharing stories of his own dreams, once a saxophonist, sidelined by a town that didn't care for a black man's music. Together, they started a free music program at the school, teaching kids who'd never touched an instrument. Malik's violin, once a symbol of isolation, became a bridge. The town didn't change overnight. Whispers of he's different or not like the others still followed Malik. But each time he played, he chipped away at those walls. His music wasn't just beautiful, it was a demand to be seen, to be heard, to be valued. And slowly people listened. Years later, at a packed concert hall, Malik dedicated his performance to his mother and Mr. Ellis, who sat in the front row, his old hands clapping louder than anyone. As the final note rang out, Malik looked at the crowd, their faces a mix of colors, ages, stories. He smiled, knowing his violin had done more than play music, it had rewritten what people thought possible. What do you think? Can music truly break down prejudice? Or is it just a start? Share your thoughts on justice and change.